the Thunder is in the books with the final score 149-106, and the series now tied 1-1. As we welcome you back inside of Paycom Center, alongside Royce Young, I am Paris Lawson. And what an emphatic response by Oklahoma City here in Game 2 inside of an electric atmosphere. Take your pick of the ways in which the Thunder were able to dominate this game tonight. How about offensive efficiency? Or if you flip the script and you look at Denver's night, how about the surgical approach to the defensive end of the floor?
Yeah, I mean, look, Paris, there was a lot of conversation coming out of that Game 1. Obviously disappointing finish for this young team. And, you know, there's a lot of talk a lot of times about the next game is won in the in-between days, and you know we were both around this team, and even just leaving the arena, the vibe from the players was tremendous. Their focus level at the practice the following day, you could just feel it in them, that they have a lot of confidence in themselves, and we've seen it from this group all season long, the way that they've been able to respond and bounce back. And for this team, in their young age, the way that they did this, you hear about getting back to zero. It matters after losses and disappointments as well, and that's what this team did. They started this game 0-0 and did an incredible job of starting great in this game.
We heard from just about every player that the approach coming into this game remain level-headed, and that's exactly what we saw from every single player, and I mean every single Thunder player to step onto the floor, because everyone that was in a uniform, they saw action tonight, and not only that, they all scored. How about this, Royce? 8 different Thunder players scored in double figures tonight.
And almost every single one, I think all but one were a positive in the plus-minus, which, by the way, in that plus-minus, SGA was a plus 51, which has never been seen before in a playoff game. He was, you know, at the forefront of it. We talk about, you use the word surgical. That is the best way to describe SGA tonight. 11 of 13 shooting, 34 points. And just the way that he just managed the game. His floor game was on complete display, but the entire starting 5 was incredible. We were just talking about it, too. And then the first sub off the bench, maybe a little bit of a surprise to some people, but it was Jay Will coming off the bench and bringing his trademark physicality, energy, hitting a 3 right off the bat, and really just that kind of boost that you get from the depth of your team is so impactful and so important. We saw from other guys, Casey Wallace was great in the first half, Aaron Wiggins as well.
I mean, and just to go off your point about Jay Will, he only had 3 points in this game, but those 3 points—
that's it?
It felt like he was all over the
23.
court. It felt like he was all over the floor. You felt his impact in the way he was able to handle Nikola Jokic defensively. When he checked into the game, 3 straight misses by Nikola Jokic, and he had to work to even get a touch on Jay Will.
It's just, again, there's so many ways to play winning basketball, and there's, you know, that's not just a Jay Will thing. That's so many guys on this team. We've seen it from time to time from Alex Caruso, him not have a single point in a game, but you feel his impact, you feel his influence in a game. You see it from Lou Dort all the time. You know, the 12 points Lou Dort had tonight doesn't tell the story of what he did on the other side with his primary assignment being Jamal Murray, who only took 9 shot attempts and only had 14 points. So those sorts of things sometimes can get lost in the box score stats, but are so impactful in the final score.
Yeah, there's so many different elements to this game that you could break down. And one more that I want to touch on, Royce. How about the Thunder and their defense on Nikola Jokic? We mentioned Jay Will's impact, but Nikola Jokic fouled out in the third quarter of this game.
Yeah, and you know, that's been a theme so far in this series, in these first 2 games, is Jokic had foul trouble as well and could have fouled out very easily at a couple different points in Game 1, but the Thunder obviously going at Jokic at different times and kind of catching him in some vulnerable positions and being really smart about how they attack them, showing different looks to him on the defensive end with different players, whether it's Isaiah Hartenstein or Chet Holmgren or Jay Will, like we mentioned, or sometimes a smaller player like Lou Dort or Alex Caruso. So a lot of different looks for Jokic, and obviously some frustration for Jokic tonight as the Thunder really kind of went at him in a number of different ways.
What did you see from Oklahoma City defensively, just kind of all around? I mean, it felt like the Nuggets, they weren't shooting the ball well at all throughout the majority of this game. What did you see on that end of the floor?
Yeah, second and third efforts was a big deal in this one, and we'll talk more about that in a minute as Mark Daignault's coming up.
All right, let's send it over to the press room so we can hear from Thunder head coach Mark Daignault.
Fouling up 3. I think we've covered everything with fouling up 3.
Mark, the paint protection tonight, and that combined with how efficient you were on the other end, philosophically, just, you know, how important was that for you in this series, given the matchup and being able to execute it tonight? How big was that?
Yeah, they pound the paint with the ball, and it leads to fouls, it leads to offensive rebounds, and it leads to efficient shots. Even some of the floaters they shoot, especially Jokic, obviously, are highly efficient looks. So, I thought we did a really good job tonally in the game with our energy and effort. Obviously, that wasn't their best. They're going to play much better in Denver, but I was impressed with the way we came out.
Mark, with Jay Will specifically, what do you think he added to that early punch and the Jokic defense?
Yeah, he was awesome. He was really good. He's just a guy that is really connected to the team. He's got a lot of pride in being on the team, being a member of this team. And he has a lot of pride in how he plays. I don't think he thought he played great last game. I can't read his mind, but I've been around him long enough to know I think he was pissed with how he played individually. And I knew he'd be ready. He's a competitor and a gamer, so he's a guy that no matter when you go to him, you can be sure he's going to be ready to rock.
And I'm not sure if you remember this, but I remember in Vegas when you guys played the Rockets that there was a late skirmish, and the guys the following day were talking about you showing that clip to them and trying to preserve that message of like not backing down to teams. How have you sort of tried to preserve that message throughout the year leading up to the series, and how do you think that showed today?
I didn't really look at tonight as a response as much as I looked at tonight as just us being who we are, and that's how we've been all season. We don't really respond to the last game. When we win, we don't have more confidence. When we lose, we don't have more urgency. I think this team has a really good baseline that we just try to return to every day when the sun comes up and we have a game. And I thought that's what tonight was.
Yeah, Mark, you guys talk about all season how you want to be a fast-paced team. After last game where they controlled the pace, how important was it for you guys to come into this game playing extremely fast as you guys did?
Yeah, I thought we controlled a lot of the pace in the first one, just to be clear on my opinion of it. I thought our pace in that game was pretty good. I thought it was good again tonight. I thought tonight might have looked faster is because we were getting stops. That was, I think, a big difference between last game and this one is we were able to get stops. We were able to secure rebounds, especially in the first half, and that allows us to be faster.
You got stops again tonight, but didn't lead to as many offensive rebounds. What did you feel like was working for you guys?
Their offensive rebounds or ours? Yeah, I just thought we did a good job on the glass. That was a huge part of game one. When you really unpack it, our first shot defense was really good. The free throws hurt us. Transition hurt us, rebounding hurt us. I thought we got all three of those things back under control tonight in that game.
Mark, I know you try to be unaffected by anything else going on in the league, and maybe you are, but it's been a crazy 3 days where home team can't seem to win. You guys broke that streak tonight. Was that you were even aware of that? And what do you do when just kooky things like that seem to keep happening?
I'm aware of it. I'm checking the scores. I'm not under my bed. But, at the end of the day, every game's different. Every team's different. Tonight was an unwritten game, and, we went out there and competed together.
Mark, related to the early J. Will minutes, just how valuable is that for guys like Hartenstein and Chet just to, manage their minutes and have another body to throw at Jokic?
It's helpful, but I think it's more helpful to the team. I think when we lose game one and then we come in and we're betting on him, we're betting on Isaiah, we're betting on Wiggins, I think it breathes life into the team. Kaysen, and those guys delivered, and I think that breathes life into the team. And we have a team that's been highly connected all season, and every time a guy, like I said, I don't think he was pleased with how Jay Will. I don't think he was pleased with how he played last game, and for him to stand up, that really gives the team a lot of oxygen.
And then just what do you think of Shai's overall game?
34 points on 13 shots is hard to do, so that was impressive. But I thought his floor game was really good. I thought his pace was really good. I thought he was off it early. He made them pay when they overhelped on him. He had the ball ahead of him all night, so he got his teammates shots too. It wasn't just a one-man show, and he was super efficient. He had an unbelievable blend tonight.
Mark, you're with these guys day in and day out, so you know the work that they put in every day. But what does it do for the young guys like Kenrich and Jones that get some run tonight?
It's great, and we need. K-Rich played minutes in the Memphis series. Mitchell played minutes in the Memphis series. In the balance of the game, We haven't gone to them yet in this one, but there are situations when we would use those guys, and so their ability to stay ready is critical. Top to bottom, we need everybody.
Mark, I get what you're saying about you didn't necessarily think this was a response, but Shai comes in here the other night and says basically it's going to be fun to see how this team deals with their first real taste of playoff adversity this season. And then he comes out in the first quarter and basically was as dominant as you could be. What did you think about the way that the guy who's the leader of your team came out and set the tone?
Yeah, I mean he set a great tone in the game tonight. Was outstanding. He's done that time and time again. My point with the response was just that we have a pretty high baseline, and we want to play to that, win or lose. And I thought that's what we did tonight. We were who we are.
What were your thoughts on how Chet responded tonight?
I thought he was great. He was another one. Him, Dub. I thought Dub's force in the game was a real tone setter. I thought Chet's competitiveness in the game, real tone setter. I thought he was really competitive on the glass, even the ones he didn't get. Offensively, he had a good blend as well. I thought everybody, contributed to the game.
Yeah, and then the starting lineup was really clicking tonight. Just thoughts on how that lineup works.
Well, as I said to you pregame, I wouldn't overreact to samples this small. You asked about the same lineup before, small sample. Tonight's a small sample. We're playing the guys we think will give us the best chance to win, and they performed great tonight. And Game 3 is a new game.
How valuable is it to have a guy like Jay Will who can also space the floor so you can go 5-out spacing while also not having to sacrifice, size and rebounding?
He's pretty unique in that way. He puts them in dilemmas. They have to close to him. He shoots it with unbelievable confidence. Or his teammates find him. At times they had guards on tonight. They cross-matched even off of him. They usually do that with Chet, but they did that with him, which is a sign of his shooting gravity. But then he's a great physicality player, defensive rebounder, point of attack defender on bigs. But the biggest thing with him is he's just like a total compete together player. He's unbelievably competitive. He's an unbelievable team guy. And when you let him touch the game, like I said, I think it breathes life into the team.
Coach, it's one thing to win by 10.5 points, as the experts would have thought, but by dominating in this fashion, does this switch the momentum in this series?
The score's 1-1. That's it. That's the score after tonight.
15 made threes the other night, 16 tonight. Shot better, but didn't take as many tonight as you did the other night. What did you feel like the difference was in the attempts that you guys, or looks that you guys got tonight?
I thought the looks the other night were really good. I thought the looks tonight, I haven't looked at the data on that yet, but I thought the looks tonight, looked pretty good. Obviously, we shot it well. Like I said, I thought tonight the game's interconnected, so I thought our stops tonight really put us at offensive advantages. And this is a great offensive team, Denver, and so that's easier said than done. But I thought we did a really, really good job on that end of the floor, and it gave us a thrust coming up the floor on a lot of possessions.
How much did it help that the fact that your bigs can get in foul trouble, like some ticky-tack fouls like in the first quarter, like they did the other night? Yeah,
it's helpful, At the end of the day, the game's going to get called how it gets called. We were in foul trouble early in the third. The only pathway for a team to come back in a game like that is to stop the clock, put them on the line, and they were in the bonus like 2 minutes into the third quarter. So that was a little concerning, but those guys did a good job. We just have to find our rhythm against this team. They're a really good offense, obviously, great offense. Jokic and Murray are great top-end players, and that takes some getting used to. You got to be really, really physical with them. Otherwise, they have their way with you, but you got to do it with great discipline because they do a really good job of drawing fouls.
And it seemed like, maybe you tried that in game one, but it seemed like tonight Jokic was kind of confused. You had some doubles coming from the baseline, and when he turned baseline, there was a guy coming late and kind of confused him where it was coming from.
Yeah, the schemes didn't change. This was the same plan. I just thought, like I said, we get a little bit more used to the opponent, which is what happens in these series. You get more familiar. That was game one. We hadn't played in a period of time, and we certainly haven't played this version of them, in a minute. And so we didn't really change much. I just thought we were a lot sharper. And I didn't think they played their best. I think they're going to be a lot better in game 3.
As young as this team is, and it's talked about a lot how young this team is, there's a couple of times where the physicality, there was some pushing, some shoving, chance for some skirmishes. They seem to handle it pretty maturely. Do you want to talk about the maturity of this team, not kind of taking the bait on some of that?
Yeah, they've always showed maturity, but physicality is part of the playoffs. It's going to be physical out there, and if you want to win in the playoffs, you have to rise to the level of physicality that's going to be allowed in the game. And so, we understand that. That's not new to us, and that's what we're going to do.
Coach, in terms of just coverage on Jokic, was that a point of emphasis, just the way you guys were able to collapse on him? Not just, one player in particular, but just as a team. And, of course, the way you were able to finish those fast break opportunities. What did you see differently tonight compared to what happened in Game 1?
Like I said, I just thought we were just a little sharper. There's a familiarity thing, in the first game of a playoff series. You're introducing yourself to the opponent and vice versa. And, we rolled out the same plan. We didn't change a thing tonight. All we did was learn from the first game, how we could execute better. There are some adjustments we can pivot to that we feel like we can go to at this point, but we wanted to see how this plan worked first. And I thought we were just a lot sharper in it tonight.
Yeah, Mark. Anything you didn't like about tonight?
There's always plays that you don't like. I thought there was times where we weren't overly organized on offense. There was times I messed up on offense. A couple of the players were very quick to point that out. And so there's always things you can learn from, and there's positives from losses. It's a long game.
Mark, I know you said the scheme on Jokic didn't change. You just felt like the intensity or the sharpness maybe changed. Did you sense a swing in sort of the way the officials maybe managed him and the way you were able to, be physical with him?
Not really. I thought, the beginning of the second half, I think, showed this was, they called the game very consistently. They did a really good job, but tighter than some of these other games that you're watching. I thought that whistle, again, the first two games, these games were called tighter, in my opinion, than some of the other ones that I'm seeing. But both were called consistently. Tonight was consistent, which is all we can ask for. If they come out and set a tone in the game for how it's going to get called, we can adapt to that. And if it's fair and consistent, which it's been, then we have no problem with it.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thank you.
There's so many great takeaways from that press conference with Coach Dagnall, but I think my favorite line was the fact that this wasn't a response by the Thunder. This was just the Thunder being who they are, and a really good example of just how high their baseline is. When they say they're getting back to 0-0, this is what they mean. They're just a really strong, resilient group no matter the circumstance.
That was the same big takeaway I had. I thought that was really informative just of kind of the mindset of this team. Like you mentioned it, Paris, we hear about the 0-0 mindset all the time, but it is so important for this group about getting back to square, getting back to baseline, as Coach Mark called it. Because, look, this team's baseline has been terrific all season long. So, you can't necessarily think about, well, we have to amp our level of play necessarily. Just have to get back to baseline and play our style of game, which is a great, intense style of defense with chaos and the deflections and the steals and the defense to offense, and also sharp execution on the offensive end, and that's what they did all night.
And then also talking about a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and how sharp he was coming out of the gates, those 13 points in the first quarter. How about we go to the press conference and hear from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's at the podium right now.
48 minutes at an even higher level. What's that like for you guys to be able to amp it up and execute the way that you did?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good feeling. Good for our confidence. But in the series, especially this late in the season, every game's gonna look different. We know that every team's gonna make an adjustment. They're gonna throw a curveball. We can't. Just like we couldn't relish on the loss, we can't relish on the win. We got to move forward, take the good things from tonight, and scratch the bad things, and be a better team come the next game, and that's what we're focused on.
Shai, you talked last game about being interested in seeing this team's response. Obviously, early, the punches there early, you guys, like Jay Wills getting into a skirmish with Russ. Did you sense last game in a row that you got punked, so to speak, and how do you feel like you responded to the physicality and just everything this game?
Yeah, no, I don't think we got punked at all. we pretty much had control of the whole game last game. Just didn't execute down the stretch. But just as a group, X's and O's, intangibles, game plan, we clearly threw the first punch tonight, the first hit, and that's why we got to the start we did. It's just about trying to replicate that and adjust as they adjust and be a better team come game 3.
And then, did you see anything change, or what did you see differently about the positions you sort of were able to put Jokic in as a team compared to last game?
I think, like Coach said, we just executed the game plan at a higher level, did it with more urgency, physicality, assertiveness, and it worked in our favor.
Before the playoffs, you talked about how you didn't feel like the playoffs were pressure situations for you, and you just mentioned how you guys came into this game desperate. But when you don't feel like this is a pressure situation, how do you also, as a leader of this team, get your teammates not to feel like this is a pressure situation?
I think like we all want to win really badly, and that's like the goal we set out for. When you pick up a basketball when you're a kid and you start the season at whatever level you're at, but like at the end of the day, it's still just a game. It still is a game that we all started just having fun with, and it's taken us across the world. And I try to remind myself that and remind the team that like no matter what happens, like go out there, have fun, and give it your all and see where it takes you. And then from there, the chips fall where they are. And we did that tonight. We came out, we played free, we played aggressive, and the chips fell in our favor. But yeah, and we're also at our best when we play free and play confident. So trying to get back to that as much as possible is definitely top of our list.
Yeah, Shai, you told us after the first couple of games against Memphis that you felt great, even if your shot was off. How much better do you feel now after the start you've gotten off in this series, and how do you explain it?
I feel the exact same. I feel like I'm getting to where I want to go. Like I said, I think I answered that question with I don't worry about makes and misses. It's all about like the process for me. I try to put myself and my teammates in the best position I can every possession down, offensively and defensively, and wherever that takes me, wherever that takes our team, I'm happy with, as long as I, make the right decisions night in, night out, play in and play out. That's mostly what I'm focused on than the makes and misses. So I feel just as confident as I did those 2 games when I couldn't make anything.
Shai, one of the first things you said when you came in here the other night is it'd be fun to kind of find out what this team's really made of.
Correct.
What did you learn about yourself, this team tonight, or what did you guys prove tonight?
Yeah, I didn't learn anything new. I think we were who we can be tonight. We played to our identity. We were focused. We were confident. We executed the game plan, and when we do that and we check all those boxes, it looks like it did tonight. And I think we just got to our identity and didn't veer from it for the full game, like Coach said.
Then you personally kind of seized control of the game right from the start. 13 points, 5 assists, first quarter. Did you feel, was it a priority for you to kind of seize control individually, or was that just what happened in the flow of the game?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to put an imprint on the game from the get without trying to force anything. And ultimately still just let the game tell me what to do. The game's going to test me every possession down. They're going to throw a coverage at me, and I'll have to make the right decision, make the right answer. And I think I did a pretty good job in the first quarter. That's basically what I was focused on in the first quarter, just trying to do that every time down the floor and let my teammates make the plays from there.
Yeah, Shai, I wanted to ask you about Russell Westbrook. 2 different things. The first thing is I wanted to ask you about what you thought about the way the crowd responded to him in Game 1, and then the difference between Game 1 and Game 2 and how that energy might have impacted things.
How did they respond in game? Like with the ovation?
The ovation in game one, they moved him pretty loudly in game two.
The ovation is beautiful. The things he's done for this city, this organization, like, he deserves it no matter what. And what he's done for the game, period, has been special, and that doesn't, just because he's on the other team doesn't change anything. Now, at the boos tonight, I mean, our crowd, they got it. You know what I mean? They do what they want when they want. They always have our back, and that's all that matters to me and to our team. As long as they always have our back, we'll be great. But they can cheer for us and have our back, I guess, is what you're asking.
Shai,
All right, from one impactful player to another, we are now joined by Jaylin Williams, J-Will. And J-Will, we've been talking about you a lot on this post-game show because you step into the game early in that first quarter and immediately make an impact. What's your mentality when Coach Dagnall's calling you up midway through that first quarter?
Yeah, my mentality throughout the whole year has just kind of been the same thing. No matter how much I play, no matter when I play, just bring energy to the team, get the guys going, and just do what I have to do. And tonight I just went out there, tried to play aggressive, tried to muck the game up, and I feel like I brought energy to the game.
One of the things Coach Mark was talking about is he said you didn't necessarily say it, but he just got the sense that you didn't really love the way that you played game one, that you wanted to respond from it. And like kind of to what Paris said, just the way that you came back into this game and influenced it, you know, we were kind of shocked that you only had 3 points because it felt like your influence in the game was much bigger than 3 points.
Yeah, I'm a competitor. I think that if I wasn't upset about wanting to play more, or if I didn't want to play more and be out on the courts in those tough games, I think there would be something wrong. But I respect Mark. I trust his decisions. He trusts me out on the court. He knows I'm a competitor. He knows I'm going to leave it all out on the floor, and I try to bring that energy whenever I can.
Defending a guy like Nikola Jokic, probably one of the hardest tasks in the NBA, and when you stepped onto the court, you made him work for just about anything that he got. What goes into defending a player like him?
Yeah, he's a great player, and he gets to his spot, so I know that he's going to make shots, he's going to make passes, he's going to do things like that. Just when I'm out there, I'm trying to make the game as hard as I can for him, and I know he's going to play more minutes than me, so I want those minutes when I am on the court to be the hardest minutes he had during the game.
You know, J-Will, a lot of times people talk about that playoff games are kind of sometimes won on the days in between the games, and obviously coming out of game one, you know, Paris and I around the team, you really couldn't tell if you guys won it or lost it, and you have such a big influence on kind of the vibes of the team. So what was yesterday and this morning like for you guys?
Yeah, just focusing on getting better, controlling things that we can control. Regardless of if it's a win or a loss, there's always things that we can get better at and change for the next game. So we kind of just looked ourselves in the mirror, saw what we did wrong, watched film with the team, and guys got better. We focused in on those things, and we try to be more precise coming into this game.
J-Will, one of my favorite stats from this game was that 8 different guys scored in double figures, and all 13 players that touched the floor scored for you guys. Just what does that say about this group and the balance that you guys have?
Yeah, I think it's a lot with just the connection we have as a team. Everybody loves to compete. Everybody loves to play. Everybody loves to share the court with each other. And when you're out there and the ball's moving around, it brings energy. When you're feeding off the crowd and the amazing crowd that we have, it just flows through us. And I feel like the energy in the building and throughout the team was amazing tonight.
And, you know, a lot of times, you know, now we look at this and you're spinning forward into now getting on the plane tomorrow, going to Denver for 3 and 4. So, you know, how do you guys kind of put these 2 games behind you? Obviously this one with a big-time lopsided score, but kind of get back to 0 now for that next game in Denver, game 3.
Yeah, we try to keep a 0-0 mindset. No matter if it was 0-2 or 2-0 or 1-1, we try to go into this next game being the best that we can be. And we're going to look at film the same way we did after game 1. We're going to find things that we can fine-tune and get better. We're going to find things that we did well and try to get those better. So as long as we go into this next day just trying to be a better team, trying to get better at the small things and really everything, I think that'll put us in the best position.
Well, J-Will, I have to say, from everybody in this arena, it felt like they were just as locked in all the defensive and hustle plays you were making as much as the scoring that was happening out there on the floor. So great game tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, stick with us here on Thunder Playoff Postgame. What a game. We have so much to cover, so stick with us. We will be right back right after this.
Big car payments? That's no fun. Even if you love your car or truck, the wrong vehicle loan can leave you wondering where your money goes and if your payment could have been lower. So if you're paying more than you should on your car loan every month, give a little love to your budget and contact Communication Federal Credit Union. There's no cost to find out if we can help. Plus, all new vehicle loans and refinances get the first 90 days with no payment. Love your car and your loan payment with Communication Federal.
Let Love's be your partner on your summer RV trip. Fuel up, grab a bite to eat, and stay the night at one of our 90 RV stops. Reserve an RV spot overnight and turn on amenities from your phone. With over 420 dog parks, we've even got your furry family members covered. We're the perfect pit stop for your next road trip. Love's, the heart of the highway.
With OG&E Smart Hours, you control your energy and your savings. If you're a busy bee, go with Smart Hours Daily, where daily price alerts let you maximize savings. Or how about Smart Hours Fixed? Just set it and forget it. Night owl? Choose Smart Hours overnight. No matter which you choose, with Smart Hours, you control your energy and your savings. When you reduce your energy use between 2 and 7 p.m. this summer, you help the grid, the environment, and your wallet. But you have to sign up to save. So sign up now at oge.com/smarthours.
Welcome back to Thunder Playoff Postgame. The Thunder defeating the Denver Nuggets 149-106. Yes, you heard that correctly. A 43-point victory to tie this series up 1-1 as the Thunder now heads out to Denver for games 3 and 4. What an exciting atmosphere we had here inside of Paycom Center for game 2. As we welcome you back inside of Paycom Center, we've got another familiar, friendly face joining us here on Thunder Playoff Postgame. It is News 9's own Steve McGehee. And Steve, you have been around this team for a very long time. You followed them all season long. What did you make of their approach to this game? We heard from Coach Dagnall, it's not a response. This is just how this team operates.
Yeah, you knew they were going to respond tonight. You just didn't know they were going to end up winning by 43 points in this game. And I think Jamal Murray scored the first buckets. They had the lead for 21 seconds, Denver, and that was it for them. But, listening to David Adelman, DA as they call him, the interim head coach for Denver, he says, we got punked. We got punked in the first 6 minutes of the game. They were more physical than us, and we didn't really try to match that until it was way too late in the game. So they got a lot to think about. Denver, he said, we're not going to flush this game away. You're going to find out what we did wrong and try to correct it in game number 3. But Oklahoma City did everything right. 10 early points in the paint. They were all over Jokic without fouling. They were, when he put the ball down low, there was someone behind him or, anywhere to get him. Just make it difficult for him. And I love the fact that Jay Will came in first. No one had that on their, as they say, the bingo card. But he comes in early and knocks down a 3, and you can see the physicality with Jokic. You can't stop Jokic completely, but try to make it difficult for him, and I think they did that.
Yeah, we just heard from Jay Will. That's where you mentioned how much you loved that move of going with Jay Will early in this one. But, what kind of tone can that set for the team? Jay Will's such a guy that's such a team-minded player. And if you look up and down this box score, Paris was just talking about it, the balanced scoring, how everybody scored. And Jay Will's kind of representative of that. So what did maybe just his presence kind of demonstrate on a bigger level?
He also hit a 3 as well, It was more than just his physicality on Jokic, but they're going to definitely lean on that the rest of this series. He didn't see much of that in game number 1. We saw it early in game number 2. So that's just another, another chip in Mark's pocket that he can pull out and use, because the bench, as we know, is much stronger than Denver's, and Denver, has to have some doubt. I'm like, okay, if they play like this, we may be in trouble.
I got to ask you about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, he had an MVP night for sure.
2 misses?
2 misses, 11 of 13.
What's wrong with him?
34 points, the model of efficiency. What did you take away from his game today?
I loved how he bounced back, but, the national storyline was, Jokic, MVP. He had the better numbers, the better rebounding, the better assists and all that. And then Shai responds with a game like this, pulling off a 43-point win. I loved the way he played tonight. It looked effortless, and once again, he's so creative. When he drives in the lane, you're like, what's he going to do? How's he going to? Oh, he just scored. He's a magician inside. It's fun to watch, but I love the way he played. He didn't force it from the outside. He was just he played like an MVP, and he played like Shai needs to play for this team to advance to the Western Conference Finals.
You know, I think for a lot of people, they're kind of feeling the wave of this game, 43-point win. Obviously, walking out of Paycom Center tonight feeling really good. However, the Nuggets are going to get on their flight feeling pretty good too. They're 1-1. They got the split that they actually ended up wanting. So kind of as we spin forward into thinking about this trip to Denver in Game 3, what are kind of your expectations for how both teams will look in that Game 3?
Well, Oklahoma City won Game 1 in Denver, so they've been there, done that. There was a loud crowd there on opening night in Denver. I think it was a Friday night or a Thursday night, but that's here, neither here nor there. But Denver only scored 87 points in that game. So Oklahoma City knows how to win in Denver. They should have won game number 8 there, but Russell Westbrook had 29 points. You know, Oklahoma City had that game 1. I think, they had a 16-point lead. So Oklahoma City knows how to win in Denver. They know the crowd's going to be loud. They know Denver's going to be embarrassed with what happened here tonight, but Oklahoma City's going to be ready for it, I think.
Great insight, as always, from Steve McGehee. I tell you what, following up Jay Will, that is no easy task. You're the man for the job.
Jay Will was better.
Definitely not. Thank you so much, Steve. We appreciate you as always. All right, we've got more coming for you here on Thunder Playoff Postgame, breaking down this 43-point win over the Nuggets.
Air Comfort Solutions has always stood for cooling, heating, plumbing, and electrical services you can count on. Assuring comfort since 2004, our Oklahoma Strong team stands for accuracy, confidence, and support where and when homes need us most. Today, with our refreshed look and our expanded services, ACS stands for achieving 100% customer satisfaction as we stand tall and do it all for OKC Homes. Like a $69 AC tune-up to keep your home comfortable year-round. For whatever your home needs, don't stress. Call ACS.
Experience the sweet, vibrant flavors of Mexico in every spoonful of Brahms' new fancy sundaes. Enjoy a cascade of fresh fruits on Brahms' Tarta de Fresa Crema Sundae. Indulge in creamy cinnamon-kissed ice cream with silky caramel on the Chongo's Zamorano Sundae. Dive into strawberry paradise with Brahms' Fresas con Crema Sundae and savor each caramel-filled bite of Brahms' Sopapilla Cheesecake Sundae. Authentic flavors, bold traditions, and irresistible sweetness in every scoop only at Brahms.
Big wins are blooming across Riverwind Casino, and the jackpots have never been sweeter.
Go all in on your favorite table games.
Hedge your bets on the biggest wins and unbeatable entertainment.
Use your wild card for the best perks and the top rewards.
And play for your share of the $100,000 Lucky May Days giveaway. Win with the best.
And we'll see you at Riverwind.
Welcome back to Thunder Playoff Postgame. The Thunder defeating the Denver Nuggets here in Game 2, 149-106. This series now tied up, and the Thunder are going to head out to Denver. Before that, let's send it over to the press room and hear from Chet Holmgren at the podium.
My daughter is mine.
You know, everybody was playing with a lot of energy, and we got to keep doing that going forward.
There seemed to be some great gang rebounding going. Would you feel on the floor just in terms of the way that you were able to finish off possessions tonight?
Yeah, obviously, you know, giving up 25 offensive rebounds isn't a winning formula. So, obviously, as a collective, we felt like we had to clean that up, and we did a good job of kind of offline in there, creating a pocket for the rebounds, and then somebody going and kind of getting it up top. So.
Shai, yesterday Mark said that you were the last person he was worried about being able to respond through adversity. I was just wondering, where do you think that comes from in your mindset to be able to respond like this?
I mean, I was talking to Kay last night. Shout out to him coming over watching the games with me. But I was just telling him, you know, I had 5 screws and a plate put in my foot, shattered my hip in basically six places. And I was thinking about it. I was like, if I could pick one of those 3, you know, missing a couple free throws is the least of your worries. Obviously, it hurts knowing what was on the line. You know, playoff game, you never want to lose. But you also can't be afraid to fail, I guess. You know, I've been on both sides of it. I've hit big free throws to go to overtime. I've hit game winners. I've missed game winners. Obviously missed clutch free throws too. It's all part of it. I didn't spend too much time on social media the last couple of days, but, I'm sure I was getting ripped pretty hard. So just understanding that it's all part of it. Obviously there's a lot of basketball ahead of us, and we have a lot to do, we got to get a lot better, but it's all part of it. I was also talking to Kay, and he just said, because, he's played a lot in his career too. He's been in similar situations and been through similar things, and he just said, don't run from it, you got to want to shoot free throws again. You got to want, when you make a mistake, you got to want to be in that position again and then try and get it right. So, that's what I'm going to try to do going forward.
Yeah, Chet, Shai described tonight as a desperate situation for you guys. After seeing what happened to Boston, what's happened to Cleveland, two other elite teams, how desperate was this situation for you guys?
Every game's desperate. It doesn't matter if you're up, down, tied, at home, on the road. It's the playoffs, so you got to come out with a level of desperation, no matter what the situation is.
Chet, after last game, you were saying that, dealing with a guy like Jokic, you don't want to be so timid, I guess, that you're not being aggressive, you're scared of the whistle. Like, how do you feel you managed him today? Not just yourself, but just sort of the front court in general.
Yeah, I didn't find myself matched to him too much today. I think a lot of the credit goes to Hart and Jay Will on that one, but just being smart, understanding that he's a smart player. So if you give him anything, he's going to take advantage of it, and that goes not only for making plays but also drawing fouls. So just playing solid, understanding where you can be physical, where you can't, and then don't give them any of those advantages, putting your hands in the cookie jar when you shouldn't, and leaving the floor on shot fake, stuff like that. Just being smart, being solid.
Quick follow-up, if I can. What did you see specifically from Jay Will in the early minutes, trying to, the positions he was trying to put Jokic in?
Yeah, exactly what I just said. Just understanding, where you can be physical, where you can't be. Not biting for any of those plays, putting your hand in there, leaving the floor, things like that. He did a great job of being physical where he could, and then being smart where, typically you give up a foul.
Chad, a couple of questions ago.
I'm trying.
A couple of questions ago, you mentioned the ebbs and flow of the game of basketball. You've obviously been playing this game for a while. What helps you maintain that kind of balance throughout everything?
Just not trying to run from anything, understanding that it's all part of it. When it doesn't go your way, you're supposed to feel like shit. When it goes your way, you're supposed to feel good. But then understanding that, for as long as you're around, which is it's a blessing to be around for a long time. As long as you're around, there's going to be another game. So just understanding that you have another opportunity to go and be better. And, if you had a good game or a good performance, you have to go do it again. Because, once you do it, people don't care until you do it again. So just got to keep it rolling.
Chet,
Two more, Michael Martin and then Jenny.
When the team signed Isaiah Hartenstein, a lot of people were immediately looking forward to the playoffs of, what would that look like? I think a lot of people were hoping that would be where his impact was felt the most. I know it's only been 6 games, but where have you seen him impact and help this team the most just in the postseason?
All over the place. You really can't sum it up to one spot. On the offensive end, he does a great job of creating offense for everybody on the floor, kind of quarterbacking a lot of things, making reads with the ball in his hand out of the handoff and back cut action. And then, everybody knows he's a really good screener, so he gets people advantages. And then, he's good at finishing at the rim. He's good at, that little 8-foot shot. He's really effective in his areas on the floor. And then on the defensive end, he's big. He can, put a chest on people, helps a lot on the glass. But beyond that, he can move, He's not just like a big, stiff dude out there. He can move, make plays,
rotate out when he needs to. So, you know, he's been all over and he's been good for us.
Last question, Jenny.
Chet, Jaylin was the first guy off the bench tonight. He only plays 2.5 minutes in game one, and tonight he really changed the direction of things, it seemed a bit. What impressed you most about just what he did and maybe what he does overall for you guys?
Yeah. What he does is really impressive, just because he has to be ready for anything and everything, either on a moment's notice or without any notice at all. You know, he's always ready. Coach can always know what to expect from him coming into the game, and you know, he does a really good job of doing what he does. You know what I mean? Comes in, makes big shots, makes big plays on defense, makes the right reads, similar to what I was saying about Hart on the offensive end, and really gets things churning, gets things going. And then, you know, he's somebody that is an energy guy for us, whether he's on the floor or not. You know, can't speak enough about what he does for us.
Thank you, Chet.
High praise from Chet Holmgren, talking about the guy that was just on this show, Jaylin Williams, and the impact that he had. But one thing we know about Chet Holmgren, he is a hooper's hooper. That means that he is always going to be competitive. He's going to be the first one to look at himself in the mirror. And I just love his response to the question about the fact that he missed those 2 free throws in game one, but the perspective that he had just speaks to his maturity and his professionalism.
It's one of the things that I've really learned being around Chet the last couple of years is his composure, like you said, his perspective, maturity. He's such a thoughtful person and always can kind of keep the main thing and in a lot of different ways. But for Chet, you know, he also talked about just not wanting to run from it. I was really impressed with the fact that Chet faced the media after that game. There was, you know, every opportunity to maybe not want to talk about it, but he absolutely did. He didn't, like he said, he didn't run from it. And he's not, and what that means is the next situation that he's cast into, which is surely going to come.
Yeah.
Another big spot in a game where he's got to come up, whether it's a big defensive stop, defensive rebound, whatever it is, free throws, big shot, anything. The fact that he didn't run from it now, it's going to set him up to be more successful in the future as well.
Always going to rise to the moment of truth. Now, we've talked about one 7-footer. Let's hear from another 7-footer. Our very own Nick Gallo caught up with Isaiah Hartenstein after the game.
All right. Hart, the energy and the focus, possession after possession, it just is so electric tonight. What did it feel like out there for this group?
Felt good. I think we responded good. I think everyone contributed in a big factor. Jay Will did a great job coming in, sacrificing his nose for the team. So he was big for us tonight.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, the point of attack defense between you and Jay Will and Chet, they obviously try to play through Jokic so much. What were some keys for you all tonight?
Just doing it as a team. I mean, you're not gonna stop it with one person. So I think everyone came in, did a great job doing that. And especially Jay Will had some big minutes just defending him.
Just how about the offensive rhythm tonight as well? It just seemed like you guys were in such a flow state for the entire game.
It was good. I think we did a good job getting stops, getting rebounds, and then pushing the pace and just playing together.
Great job tonight, Hart. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Pushing the pace, indeed. That brings up a really interesting element to this game, is that the Thunder won in points off turnovers, they won in fast break points, they won in second chance points. Points in the paint was a massive margin in this game. Truly, everywhere you look, the Thunder were ahead of the Denver Nuggets by a sizable margin.
Yeah, and a lot of that, again, Hartenstein's impact all over the floor is obviously felt in so many different ways. He had the floater going in a number of different spots and really put Denver in a bind there. We saw the big-to-big passing was on point, a couple alley-oops between the two, a couple backdoor cuts. I always love watching Isaiah Hartenstein. Sometimes it's like late shot clock. You're wondering, where's he going to go with the ball here? Is he going to have to chunk one up? And then all of a sudden, I remember J-Dub, it was like a backdoor cut. All of a sudden, Denver just turns their head for just a second, and then just an on-time, on-target pass from Hart, perfectly placed to Dub for a dunk. It's all those types of like late clock situation bailouts where so often it's like a great scorer's got to hit a step-back three. Sometimes when it's in Hartenstein's hand, the late clock bailout is him just finding a perfect dime to somebody cutting at the right moment.
It's like between him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you think you got him cornered, you think you got him trapped when they pick the ball up, and then all of a sudden a beautiful play that just emerges out of nowhere and just speaks to the talent on this roster, and particularly with a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, such a skilled big man, and what he's able to do on both ends of the floor, Royce, battling a guy like Nikola Jokic, and then show some awesome finesse on the other end with that push shot.
Yeah, I mean, his impact all season long has been so obvious to everyone. A lot of people kind of thought that it was going to be just kind of specifically about rebounding.
Yeah.
That was Isaiah Hartenstein. But for people familiar with his game and really how he blossomed in New York last year, it was a lot about the passing and the connectivity that he could bring to the team. And then, of course, his screening, I think, has been really impactful and helpful for guys like Dub and Shai to be able to get more downhill. So Hartenstein's impact felt all over the place in game 2.
I think he heard us talking about him because he's at the podium right now alongside Jaylin Williams, J-Dub. Let's listen in.
He's rotated in bigs pretty consistently with Jokic. How did that affect your strategy? I'll start there, Isaiah. Just what did that look like from your perspective, using all three of you like you did tonight?
He was big tonight. I think him coming in, setting that energy, setting that tone, I think was amazing for us, especially maybe not playing that much in a series before to now to come in to play such a big game for us, I think was huge. Him staying ready, him mentally staying ready was big, and he did a lot of great stuff for us tonight.
Jaylin, what impressed you most about what Jay Will did tonight?
Yeah, just staying ready. It's hard to maybe play 3 minutes one game and then, be the first person off the bench and have to guard Jokic. So it's a very hard thing to do, and you have to take your hat off to him for being ready and staying involved in the game. And he's been doing that all year. I'm pretty sure everybody sees it, but the way that he supports us, playing, not playing, he just does a great job with it, and I think that keeps him engaged in the game too.
Yeah, Isaiah, crazy 3 days in the NBA. Home teams haven't been winning since Saturday, really. How desperate were you guys tonight to make sure the same fate didn't befall you?
I think we did a good job of just resetting. I think we also didn't want to come in and change our mentality too much. I think that's how you approach a playoff series in general. At the end of the day, the reality was we lost one game, and so we wanted to come in, play how we always play, be a little bit more focused on the details, but I don't think we kind of came in and tried to change our mentality. I think that's the biggest thing with the playoffs. Even next game, we're not going to change how we approach the game. And we're just got to come out and just try to execute, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, Shai before the postseason talked about how the playoffs for him aren't any pressurized situations because he tries to take the emotions out of the game. And he also, when he was in here, talked about how you guys came into this game desperate. With him being leader of the team and having that mentality of these aren't pressure situations, how does he impress that on you guys, and what does that do for you guys?
Yeah, just the position he's in, it definitely leaves an imprint. And when you see how desperate he is to win the game, it almost drags you along with it. And we have a team full of guys that play that way anyway. Tonight was no different. I think even the first game, I think that's just how it's kind of like our DNA. I think that's what makes us stand out. But tonight was probably just a little more, back against the wall. You're just kind of bound to play that way. And, like you said, Shai being the leader of the team, it's just one of those things that, when he's like that, which he always is, it kind of, affects the whole team.
Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, such a great leader for this group. And when you see him around the building, and Royce, you're around him a lot, he's easily just an easy personality, one of the coolest guy in the room. Absolutely. Pretty much any room that he walks into, and it translates in that locker room.
Absolutely. I mean, and the one thing about Shai, too, that is so remarkable, we've heard people talk about it, is just how much he doesn't try to stand apart from the team, even though he does have that cool factor. Yeah. And he's obviously one of the world's great players, great athletes, but he very much wants to pour into his teammates and be part of the group. And you see the influence it has on guys in young players like a J-Dub, who has blossomed himself alongside Shai, turned into an all-star this year, and has performed so well in this postseason and had a great game tonight. Coach Mark talked about it, the foot on the gas, the force that Dub played with in that first quarter. A lot of that is enabled by and empowered by a guy like SGA, who is not just saying, all right, this is my game, get out of the way. Right. They're playing alongside each other and solving those problems together.
And even when he has a big night, like a 34-point night, it's well within what the Thunder is doing offensively. So it's never just him pushing his own button and forcing anything out there. there. It is all to make sure that the ends are better than what the Thunder does individually. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just so strong on that end of the floor. All right, we will be right back right after this break to get you all squared away. Everything you need to know as the Thunder head into Game 3.
My doctor is my hero.
My doctor makes me happy, makes me feel safe.
It helps me get strong.
We're just so grateful that we don't have to travel out of state.
Oklahoma Children's Hospital cares for my child like their own.
Gives us hope and has our trust.
Leadership starts at home. That's why Ford is from America, for America. And with a lineup of our most popular Ford trucks and SUVs, we're for Oklahoma, too.
We're
including F-150, Bronco, and Expedition. That's our leadership lineup. Right now, get employee pricing. You pay what we pay. Ford, from America, for America. At your best in Oklahoma Ford dealers. Proud truck partner of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Hey, have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? The Monumental Savings Event is happening right now. Save big on our newest arrivals. We have hundreds of sofas with styles you love at unbeatable prices. Like this one. At just $5.99, you can enjoy this contemporary sofa by Ashley, complete with 5 accent pillows. Just one of over 100 great sofas in stock and ready for you to enjoy tonight with fast and free delivery. So don't miss out on the Monumental Savings Event happening at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome back inside a Paycom Center. This is the aftermath after an electric atmosphere. The Thunder defeat the Denver Nuggets 149-106. The series now tied 1-1. Fassler Hall is now Thunder Hall, your official Thunder watch party destination for the playoffs. Watch the Thunder on the big screen for games 3 and 4 with giveaways, good food, and more. Head to okcthunder.com/Thunder Hall for more info. Well, the Thunder, from this point out, they're going to head out to Denver for games 3 and 4. So the environment's going to shift a little bit. And Royce, we've been to Denver. We have experienced that atmosphere. It's pretty loud. It's pretty rowdy. And for a visiting team, can be pretty hostile. So for Oklahoma City, what is key going into Denver?
Well, it's always more difficult to maintain the kind of pace that you want to play with. And a lot of times a home team wants to try to amplify that themselves. So that is something that you can certainly expect. It's always just more difficult to play on the road. That's the reason they call it home court, home field advantage. So again, this is what Denver wanted to do at the end of the day. They wanted to split 1-1. They got that done. So now this transitions to Denver, and it'll be interesting to see how both teams approach that game 3.
You know the Thunder is definitely looking forward to that next challenge out in Denver. That is going to be on Friday. And I know I thought we were done with the late tip-offs, but you're going to have to stay up late with us again. That is a 9 p.m. tip-off Central Time, and you can catch that on ESPN. Game 4 on Sunday. Early tip-off, making up for that at 2:30 p.m. on ABC. We know there will be a Game 5, and that is going to be on Tuesday here in Oklahoma City. Time still TBD, but that'll be on TNT. So the Thunder has a lot of challenges still ahead of them, but got the job done here tonight. One thing we learned from listening to Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault, none of this carries over.
Yeah.
The extra 43 points that you won this game by, you don't get to add them to your score at the start of the next game.
Change that rule.
I really think that it makes a lot of sense.
Just specifically for game 3.
Just for game 3, make it a lot easier for Oklahoma City. But nonetheless, the series tied 1-1. So you can expect that level-headed approach from Oklahoma City. The same level-headed approach after we saw after the loss in game 1, you can expect after winning game 2.
Yeah, again, it's getting back to baseline. It's returning back to your form and being prepared. You know, whether it's some tweaks and some adjustments, but more than anything, it's about execution of game plan and so many different things for this Thunder team, because as we've seen all season long, this team can perform at an extremely high level on both ends of the floor, but it is always harder to do it on the road. This has been one of the best road teams in the NBA all season long. We've seen what the Thunder have accomplished, but you do have to pack it up. You got to go into there, and you know that Denver crowd's going to be rowdy because they're going to feel pretty good about being 1-1. So it's on the Thunder now to try to steal that home court advantage back by at least coming home with a split, but preferably both.
Yeah, definitely going to aim for both. And the Thunder are going to take all the lessons that they learned from these 2 games here at home, and they're going to pack those in their suitcase, take them with them out to the Mile High City for games 3 and 4. Should be some good ones out there in Denver, so be sure to tune in. But that wraps us up here inside of Paycom Center on Thunder Playoff Postgame. Thank you so much for staying up late with us and watching here on inside of Paycom Center. We really appreciate you. What a fun game. What a fun atmosphere. The Thunder defeating the Denver Nuggets by 43 points. Absolutely impressive stuff by every single player that stepped onto the court for Oklahoma City. And now they're going to head out to Denver for game 3 and 4. Once again, our final score, 149-106, with the series now tied 1-1. For Royce Young, I'm Paris Lawson. A reminder to join us for a complete breakdown and reaction following Game 3 from Denver on Friday night. Until then, good night from Paycom Center in downtown OKC.
Welcome to Super Bowl 49. 51.
Super Bowl 53.
Dig deep, boys.
Number 12, number 11, Julian Edelman, the Iron Man.
Championship play. They don't mean none unless we win it. Let's go.